Hey everyone, do you want your drums to slam the same way they do on albums like from Breaking Benjamin, Paramore, Papa Roach, and many more? I'm going to show you how to dial drums just like that using the Kiive Audio Complexx 760. Let's check it out. Okay, so here is the Complexx 760 limiter. This is a compressor, expander, and limiter. There's a bunch of controls, but really we're going to kind of narrow it down. If you don't want to check out the controls, you can use the chapters down below to jump ahead to the audio examples. Our audio examples today are going to be our snare drum, our drum bus, and our parallel drum shells. So go ahead and jump forward if you want to do that. For now, let's do a quick once over of the controls. Let's look at the left-hand side where we have our major input control here, and you have an output on the right hand side as well. That's pretty straightforward, but you also have an input and output knob here and on the right hand side. Well, these are for your left and right channels if you're in mid-side mode or if you're in stereo mode and you need to do just like a little balancing. So inputs on the left and right, that's just on the input and output of the unit, and then you can do some channel balancing with the input and output here. Top left, tone, just kind of a little built-in EQ, maybe lean it a little bit more towards the top end, a little bit more towards the bottom end. Cool. If you're looking at the left-hand side, the green is the expander section, and so this control here is the expander attack selector. Then you have your release time, your threshold, and your range, because we're an expander. Underneath that is the orange section. This is the compressor. Here's your compressor attack with 3 different settings, your release times, your threshold, and your ratio select. Then these white controls in the middle turn the expander or gate on or off, and it also turns on the peak limiter. You can have this on, off, or pre-emphasis, which basically is just like if you need to do a little de-essing. You can put this into pre-emphasis and it does a little bit of limiting before. In the middle, you have your side chain, so you can roll off the low end and it doesn't trigger the compressor to go as much. LED indicators to let you know if it's limiting, that's the red one, or expanding, that's the green. Power for everything. The bypass button over here is for the preamp circuits of the compressor. So you can still get a little bit of the sound of this plugin by turning it into bypass. That just kind of takes the compression circuit out, but you can get the sound of the unit if you just still have the main power on in the middle, and then underneath that is, do you want it in dual mono, stereo mode, or in mid-side mode? Also from Kiive Audio, the kind of standard things we see, preset browser along the top, gain link, left and right link, oversampling built in, a little bit of stereo width if you need to do that, adjust your harmonic distortion, and a built-in mix knob. Okay, now let's get into how this thing actually sounds. And I'm just gonna solo our snare drum. These are programmed drums, but that doesn't mean that they can't be mixed any differently to suit our song. So let's go ahead and add a little compression onto the snare, maybe bring it a little mid-forward. That is something you can do with the Complexx 760. It's very kind of mid-forward. Take a listen. Here is their snare raw. And now we'll activate it, and I dialed some stuff in earlier, so here's where we are with our snare. Sure, right now that sounds extreme, but take a listen to this. I'm just going to solo all of my drums and put the plugin into bypass again. Listen to the snare drum in our drum mix, and just listen to it kind of come mid-forward. So it just kind of pokes out a little bit more. Even though it's programmed drums and there's no bleed, the expander helps it kind of push forward, because even though we're compressing, we're then re-expanding, and our dynamic range is adjusted to how we need it, not to how it sort of naturally is, but we can still make it natural or sound right in the song. You may have also noticed we had just a little bit of limiting going on. I just wanted to chop off the top of the peaks of this snare drum. So the limiter LED just kind of lights up when the snare pops. I'm just doing a tiny bit of limiting, barely, just enough to like light it up. Okay, so that's our snare drum. Let's flip over to our drum bus, because we already opened everything up and we heard our snare drum come forward. Let's hear what this thing will do on our drum bus. Maybe you think you're choking that off just a little bit too much. Sure, let's do some parallel processing right inside the plugin by reducing our mix down to 70%. We'll let 30% of our original signal back through just to kind of preserve some dynamics, maybe add some of that low end back in. Here it is at 70%. And last but not least, let's talk about parallel compression. Right now, I'm just doing parallel compression on my kick and snare. Now, I've been going through all of these different sounds of our drums, but I should also note that this is the only processing that I'm doing on these drums. I'm just doing some compression. All of the EQ changes that you are hearing is actually what the unit is doing. It is the sound of the unit. It has a mid-forward kind of sound. So it's really good in parallel to help your shells just kind of poke through your mix. To hear this, I'm going to show you what I have going on, and then I'll actually play it in the whole mix as it is anyway. So here's how it looks of just the drums with our parallel compression. Again, if I didn't say it before, I'm just sending my kick and snare to the parallel compression bus here. So you'll see me click these ones on and off. Okay, now I'm going to play it in the whole mix, and things are kind of just like roughed in on this mix. But listen for when we turn the parallel send on. Listen to the kick and snare, particularly right in the middle. They're going to come right forward at you, almost kind of nosy and mid-rangey. Just listen for the poke of the kick and snare coming through when we turn the parallel on and off. That is what makes this compressor great for your parallel shell compression. You know, your drums and your drum bus and your parallel compression isn't the only place for the Complexx 760. Try this on your mix bus, but use it a little bit more subtle. It'll bring a nice little forward push that maybe your song needs, but also it allows you to manipulate that dynamic range with the expander or the compression side to really dial the dynamic range of your song where you need it. On your mix bus, be a little bit more gentle with this, but on your drums, have them push hard and pop forward. Use the sound of this compressor to bring things kind of mid-centric and really have them poke through. The Complexx 760 is available right now, so use the link down in the description and go grab your copy of this really, really good compressor and start slamming your drums today. If you're looking for that hard rock kind of mid-forward drum sound, the Kiive Audio Complexx 760 is definitely a great option to help you compress your drums to have them push forward just a little bit more. That's why this plugin is kind of like a hidden contender in the world of drum processing, but with this plugin, it is now getting the limelight that it very much deserves. Grab a copy today, compress your drums, and happy mixing. See you next time.